Hey, future medics. Today we are talking about the dorsal body cavity. Now, this isn't a cavity that gets a lot of attention, which is a shame because it's actually incredibly important. It houses our brain and our spine, and without those things, nothing else would work. So, without further ado, let's talk about the dorsal body cavity, which has two main subcategories: the cranial cavity and the spinal cavity. Now, we saw this briefly when we talked about the axial skeleton, because the axial skeleton is the protector for our dorsal body cavity. We have the skull that protects the brain, and then we have the vertebrae that protect the spine and the spinal cord. There is another protection that we have, and it is called the meninges, and there are three layers of them that we're going to get into. Now, the meninges are the reason that we're able to think and move and breathe and do anything that we do without constant pain. They're a good cushioning and a very protective surface for these very vulnerable structures that we have. I want you to think of the meninges like blankets. It's like three layers of blankets that have their own form and function. So these blankets wrap around our brain and the entirety of our spinal cord to cushion and protect. So we're going to start from the outermost and work our way to the inside, to the innermost. So the very first one is the dura mater, the durable dura. It is on the underside of the skull, and that is its attachment. It's a very thick, tough, leathery layer. And if there is a bleed between this dura layer and the skull, it is called an so epi on top, epidural hematoma. And it's from arterial bleeding, so a lot of blood collects very quickly, and we see our patients deteriorate very, very quickly. The second layer, moving in, is the arachnoid layer. It's very spider web like, and that is where it gets its name. Right under this layer, the subarachnoid space, is where CSF, it can move and go and nourish the brain and take away waste. And a bleed here is usually felt like a thunderclap headache. Very, very dangerous. The innermost layer is the pia mater, and it's like a very protective hug. It follows every fold and contour and nook and cranny of the brain and of the spinal cord. It holds blood vessels that take nourishment and oxygen specifically to and away from neuro tissue. So whenever we have a disruption of the pia mater, we have a loss of function completely because there's no more oxygen getting to where it needs to go and cells will die. So the cranial cavity, it holds the brain. Super easy to remember. You've got the brain wrapped in three blankets of meninges to protect it, and this whole thing floats in the cavity in cerebral spinal fluid. And the whole point of that is to nourish the brain and also take away waste, but also be a cushion for the brain. So every time we ride a roller coaster or something happens that jostles us around, our brain isn't slamming into the cranial vault and getting damaged. Now, going down the spinal cavity, we have the spinal cord, which is protected by those really tough bony vertebrae, but also spinal meninges, the same three layers, and cerebral spinal fluid. So with all of this protection, the spinal cord is usually okay and doing very well. But when we do have injuries, it's important for you to know that you will lose sensory and motor below the injury point. So if we have a injury around the lumbar region of the spinal cord, your legs will lose sensory and motor function, but your arms will still be able to work because everything up to that point still works. This is really important for your assessment when you are assessing trauma patients. It gives you an idea of where the injury is so that you can hand that off to the hospital and the surgeons will know what is going on. So the dorsal cavity isn't just a space, it's a fortress to protect our very important wiring of the body. Knowing all this anatomy, gives you the tools you need to recognize spinal cord injury and brain bleeds so that you can better take care of your patients. You're doing a good job. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself right now. I'll see you soon.